Over to Devin Haney. Devin, your thoughts on what happened tonight?
Alhamdulillah, Allah is a perfect planner. I'm disappointed with my performance, but I showed that I was a true champion, and that I could fight after being knocked down and being hurt.
You knew that left hand was Ryan's best weapon. You got clipped with it in the first round, early on. It just seemed like you couldn't stay away from it throughout the course of the night.
Yeah, he caught me early when I was sleeping on it. He caught me by surprise. I fell asleep on the left hook. We trained for it, but I got it and I fell asleep, and he caught me with it.
When you went down that first time, how hurt were you? How much did that change the course of the fight?
I was more surprised than hurt. The first time I wasn't really that hurt. I was more surprised. Like I said, he went in there, he jumped on me, just like he knew he would, but I was just sleeping.
How much did his style start to affect you? Because when he did slow down, he turned his back on you at times, made things a little bit complicated.
Yeah, no, I thought the ref, let him turn his back, let him hold a little too much. But alhamdulillah, Allah is a perfect planner. He makes no mistakes.
We just heard Ryan say, sure, we'll run this fight back. Is a rematch something you'd like to do next?
Of course. I thought it was a close fight still. I would love to rematch. I gave him a shot. It's only right he gave me a shot back.
Ryan came in a little bit heavy. You said, I'm going to go through with this fight no matter what. Do you have any regrets about that now?
No. Like I said, Allah is a perfect planner. He didn't make weight, so I'm still the champion, and we can run it back.
What's going on, boxing fans? It's Backchat TV, and I'm back with another video. So, you see the title. A lot of people are going to say at some parts of this video that I'm hating on Ryan Garcia, but that is not the case. I am a boxing fan first and foremost. Garcia performed well. It was a great performance from Garcia. Haney performed well at times. Outside of the first round, the 7th and the 10th and the 11th, when Garcia dropped Haney in those rounds, Haney won the majority of the rounds. But that's not really what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is that there's a stain on this win. And I'm not just saying this now because of the result. Go and check a previous video that I made. I said that Ryan Garcia not making weight has kind of ruined the fight a little bit, because if he wins, this is going to be an excuse that Devin Haney can rightfully use. Now, someone said to me, you can't use the excuse of being weight drained, because all you have to do is make weight, but you can rehydrate to your correct weight, so it doesn't matter. It's not the same as Ryan Garcia when he fought Gervonta Davis not being able to rehydrate. Yeah, and that is true. Not being able to rehydrate, that's a difficult thing. But Gervonta Davis and Ryan Garcia were similar weight in the ring, but Ryan Garcia was depleted because he wasn't able to rehydrate to his natural weight. Now, what people don't realize is that making weight, there's so much that goes into making weight. 3.2 pounds is way too much at the top level. I'm not making excuses. I just want to say that at the top level, these guys are very equal in ability. If one has a small advantage, it's enough to make a big difference and to get the win. And this is the truth. I've seen this happen many times. If someone's 1 pound over, 2 pounds over, but 3 pounds, this makes a big difference. Now, I'm going to tell you why it makes a big difference. When you have to cut weight to make a weight that's not your natural walk around weight, it is very taxing on the body. For both of these guys that are quite big guys to make 140 pounds, it takes a good couple of weeks, slowly, week by week, losing the pounds until they get down to 140. It's extremely difficult to do. It's not something that an average person can do. It takes so much discipline. They look like skeletons on the stage almost to get to that weight. And then after they make that weight, which is extremely difficult and taxing on the body, they have 24 hours, because they're fighting the next day, to rehydrate. You have to do so much to rehydrate, eating your meals every couple of hours, drinking your fluids. And the problem is, you may get to your weight, but it takes a while to get back your full strength. You cannot do it in one day. Surprise, surprise. Most people think that, you rehydrated, you're back to full strength. You can't fully get back to full strength from cutting yourself down over a period of weeks, you can't get back to full strength in 24 hours. It doesn't matter what anyone says. I used to do boxing in my teenage years, and weight cutting to make weight was extremely difficult, even for someone who was quite disciplined. I found it extremely difficult, and I ended up, quitting boxing and going to different sports. It's extremely hard. Now, the only reason why, Devin Haney puts himself through this to make 140 pounds is because his opponent is going to make 140 pounds. And then, if they can rehydrate, whoever can rehydrate and be the strongest version of themselves within 24 hours, it's fair game. The only problem is when someone doesn't make weight. Ryan Garcia never had to deplete himself and then rehydrate. He didn't do that. He came into the weigh-ins almost 4 pounds over, 3.2 pounds over, 143.2 pounds he weighed in. Looking strong, looking filled out. Ryan Garcia came into the weigh-ins weighing 143.2 pounds. He hardly had to cut anything. He was full of energy. He looked filled out. He didn't have depleted cheekbones or any of that stuff. He had a huge head start. He never had to deplete himself at all. Not at all, but in relation to how much Devin Haney was depleting himself. So when you rehydrate, it's very easy. Garcia would have been at full strength, but Devin Haney, he's a professional. He didn't want to be the person who missed weight. So he made the weight. He went through the fire, cutting down to 140 pounds, which is extremely difficult for these guys. And Garcia didn't. That's where the advantage is. So if you imagine now, from being completely depleted to having to quickly rehydrate within 24 hours, it shows up in the fight. At the top level, it shows up in the fight. Devin Haney looked, I'm not going to say a shell of himself or anything, but before we even get into his fighting style, I'm not even talking about that, but just his body. He looked fully hydrated in the fight against Regis Prograis. I feel he looked really good there. Very heavy. He was punching hard. He looked more filled out. I think this weight cut was a lot more difficult. He just looked so small, to be honest. And Devin Haney's not a small guy. It is very difficult, guys. Honestly, I'm not making excuses. It is very difficult to completely deplete yourself over a period of weeks to then fully rehydrate to full strength in a few hours. Now, if you couldn't be bothered to cut weight like you're supposed to, then it's very easy. You can do it and be full strength in the ring on the night, which is what Garcia did. So that doesn't sit right with me. And it's not that I'm making excuses for Haney after the fact. If you check the previous video, I said I didn't like the fact that he didn't make weight, by so much. If it was 1 pound, you could say, well, it was 1 pound. An advantage is an advantage. But 3.2 pounds is just way too much. I can't take away from Garcia's win. End of the day, Devin Haney accepted that. He could have said no fight, but he accepted that. He was maybe greedy, accepted the money instead. Maybe overconfident, thinking he could beat him even though, he is going to be a bit depleted. It happens. If you look at the fight with Lomachenko, he was depleted. It wasn't the best performance against Lomachenko either. Naturally Lomachenko is a smaller guy, so he got away with it. But when you're fighting a guy that is your size, you don't want any disadvantage. Haney didn't look good tonight. I mean, he was the skilled fighter that we know, but his resistance. This is what I would have liked. If Garcia would have come in 140 pounds on the nose, just like Devin Haney, just like you're supposed to, then I would have liked to see what happened in the fight, because some of those shots that Garcia caught Haney with, Haney might not have gone down. Because it is very hard to regain your power. I know from personal experience, when I had to lose weight, it was much easier for me because I was in my teenage years, and I'm now in my late 30s, banging on the door for 40. But in my teenage years, I boxed. I had 7 amateur fights, and making weight was too difficult, so I quit. So I'm being honest, I quit. I found it too difficult to make weight. But end of the day, what I'm trying to say is a lot of people who haven't boxed, who've never sparred or anything, haven't laced up the gloves, as they say. They don't realize that it's not easy to get your strength back after depleting yourself. People who had to make weight know what I'm talking about. If you have to deplete yourself for any reason, the last thing to come back to normal is your strength. Your strength, your stamina can even come back, but your strength is the last thing. You know, you may even regain the weight by kind of, stuffing yourself a little bit, eating every few hours, but like I said, it's a difficult thing, and they signed up to do this, and Garcia broke that, but he's celebrating as if it was an equal playing field, and it wasn't. Devin Haney looked like, I don't want to say a shell of himself or anything, but you could see there was a difference. First of all, Garcia was bigger, he looked stronger. Now I think under normal circumstances, had it been equal, I don't think Garcia is the stronger fighter. Harder puncher, he's got power and speed and all of that, but I don't think he's the stronger man naturally. But he looked like the stronger man in there because Haney was depleted. So, just like I said in the previous video before the fight, it's not going to be a good feeling for me if Garcia wins under these circumstances. So make of that what you will. That's the excuses out the way. I think a lot of it had to do with that. But nevertheless, Haney and his team and Bill Haney, they agreed to go ahead with the fight, even though there was a huge disparity between 140 and 143.2 pounds for your opponent. They went ahead with it, and Garcia performed well. He lost a lot of the rounds, to be honest. He won the first round, and then he lost the second, and then I think he lost the third, and he lost many rounds as Haney came on strong. Haney fought well. I liked some adjustments. I saw a video of someone saying, "Oh, Haney didn't make any adjustments." He made a lot of adjustments. First of all, Ryan Garcia is very dangerous coming forward. He tried to dictate the pace and get Haney on the back foot early on by kind of like threatening him with a jab, so that Haney was in a retreat mode, kind of a defense mode. And Garcia likes that because then he can rely on his speed to get to the punch quicker, and he's got more momentum coming forward. And he caught Haney in the first round. After that, Haney straight away did the correct thing and started trying to push Garcia back, threatened him with a jab, ducking under the right hand, coming forward, and then he was throwing a body shot and really putting pressure on Garcia, and Garcia was not so dangerous on the back foot. After that, Garcia kind of lost a lot of the rounds because he wasn't able to get on the front foot, and Garcia noticed that. So there was a little battle for who's going to come forward, who's going to be the one coming forward, and that was the battle that was kind of going on. Garcia would sometimes use the lead hand to threaten Devin Haney, to put him in a defensive mode so that he can set up his right hand, his right hook, and then set up his left hook and keep Devin Haney on the back foot. And then Devin Haney was ducking under the right hand and then trying to counter and push Garcia back. So there was a lot of adjustments going on there, which I saw, and I thought Devin Haney did a good job, but Garcia just had that edge. He had that sharpness, he had that power, he had that speed, and he had the power that only comes with having a 3.2 pounds advantage. Honestly, I know I'm going to keep talking about this, but I just would have loved to have seen both fighters have to, be professional, make 140 pounds, which would be difficult for both of them. This is twice now we've seen Garcia complain about the weight. In his last fight against Duarte, they made a catch weight. Because why did they make a catch weight? Because it is difficult, very difficult for Garcia to make 140 pounds. In this fight, you think he wanted to lose 1.5 million? He tried, but he can't make that weight. He finds it very difficult. He's going to have to start cutting weight much earlier now, and I don't think he wants to even make 140 pounds anymore. Plus, because of his lifestyle, so he really didn't deplete himself much. Whereas Devin Haney depleted himself so much that it was too difficult to recover. And what happens is, you think you've recovered when you're in the ring. You think you pretty much recovered until you're fighting someone who has that edge, and then you just don't quite have the snap on your punches. You don't quite have the power. Maybe you have it early on, but halfway through, you lose it. It's just small margins. Honestly, guys, it's small margins that make the difference at the top level. Devin Haney could have beaten some lesser opponent at half his strength, but he wasn't going to beat Garcia. And, if you think I'm making excuses, Garcia made excuses against Gervonta Davis, and he was valid. I said the same thing when it came to Gervonta Davis and Garcia. That rehydration thing is terrible. When you control the weight that someone can rehydrate, is terrible. Garcia looked like a shell of himself against Gervonta Davis. But early on, he was fast, but his resistance to punches was terrible. And that was because of the weight, the rehydration. And he knows it. He said it himself. He wants to fight Gervonta Davis because it wasn't fair, because he's naturally a bigger man, and he needed to rehydrate to his full capacity to be able to take shots. Now that's what happens. Someone was saying to me that, it doesn't matter about the weigh-in, because you're allowed to rehydrate. It matters. If one person starts at a deficit and another person doesn't, then you're trying to rehydrate as much as possible to normal, to optimum, I should say, within 24 hours. Something that takes weeks to accomplish, to get down to. You're trying to do it in a couple of hours. You're not going to do it. But the only thing that's fair is that your opponent is doing the same thing. Do you see what I mean? So when your opponent isn't doing the same thing, this is the kind of result you get. You saw how easily he went down after those shots. And this is classically the kind of thing you see if you're not at your optimum weight. All the signs are there. It's not like he got outboxed by Garcia. Garcia, when he came forward and tried to throw power punches and he landed, Haney went down. But if it would have been an equal playing field, Garcia, I guarantee you, would not have had the power and the sharpness and the accuracy and all those things. He would have had the accuracy and the speed, but the power, he wouldn't have had that. And he would have been more affected by some of the shots that Haney landed, but he wasn't. He didn't have to cut weight. 3.2 pounds is huge. It's ridiculous. So, what can I say about the win? It was a good win. He's a good fighter. But at the same time, he's got a lot of skills. I like Garcia. I would just like to see him more disciplined and know how good he really is on an equal playing field. If you think about it, why do you think that Garcia missed weight? First of all, he doesn't want to deplete himself, but he knows Haney very well. Haney's quite a muscular, heavy-set guy. The best thing you can do is to weight train him. He knows his first hand because Gervonta Davis did it to him. And he knows how effective it was. He got hit with a body shot that if he was allowed to rehydrate, I guarantee you, even with a broken rib, Garcia would have got up. He's a warrior. He would have got up from that shot that Gervonta Davis landed, that body shot. But because he was weight drained, he couldn't get up. So, for people who say it doesn't matter, trust me. I've done boxing before, although it was many years ago. It matters. You try cutting down to a weight that you was when you were a teenager, and then see how quickly you can rehydrate and get back to your normal weight and strength. Then you'll see what I'm talking about. The people who know what I'm talking about. So I don't want to keep harping on about that part of it. Garcia looked sharp. He landed some good shots. Haney made some mistakes in there, but Garcia gets the win. Congratulations to him. I'm just a boxing fan, and I just don't like an unfair playing field. So it's not really much I can say. I just don't like it. I said the same with Gervonta Davis. Apparently, this is somebody told me, I didn't see the fight, but apparently this other fighter on this card didn't make weight by quite a large amount, and he ended up winning his fight. I think he might have stopped the guy who made weight. So like I said, it makes a difference. I've seen it even in UFC. I think Conor McGregor fought Dustin Poirier, for those people who are UFC fighters, and in their second fight, Dustin Poirier weighed in at 156 pounds when they were supposed to be 155 pounds, I think. 1 pound difference, and Poirier ended up knocking out McGregor. And in the post-fight press conference for that UFC fight between McGregor and Dustin Poirier, McGregor said, "I'm never going to let someone be heavier than me, or if they don't make weight, 155 pounds, if it's 1 pound over, no fight." Because he took it for granted, and he said he felt the difference. We're talking about 1 pound. He said he felt the difference. And many fighters have lost on the scales. And I think Haney's one of them, to be honest. I would like to see Garcia run it back. If Garcia admits that, he wants to run it back, and this time he wants to run it back because of the weight issue, I think that's very respectable of him, because he wants Gervonta Davis to run it back because of the weight issue. If he says that he wants to run it back but at 147 pounds, I wouldn't be surprised, because Garcia really doesn't want to try and make 140 pounds. He's running from that weight. On multiple occasions now, he hasn't made that weight. He's finding it difficult. What would it have been like if he would have made that weight? Would it be the same outcome? We don't know. For me, it's left a very big question mark over this performance. Devin Haney wasn't his best. Garcia looked good, but apart from the knockdowns, he lost a lot of the rounds. Would that have made a difference if they were on the same playing field? I don't know, guys. I'm not going to say any more on it. I know I'm going to have a ton of people saying that I'm just a hater and stuff, and I understand that, but I'm not a hater. I really just don't like anything that is that is unfair. I love it when two guys are on an equal playing field. They both make weight. There's no issues. There's no injuries that people know someone's got an injury or anything like that. I love it when two guys come in there, they're professional, they both make weight, and one guy dominates. And then you can give that guy all the accolades. But how are we able to give Garcia all these accolades when Haney looked like a shell of himself in there? So I don't know. Let me know what you think. Do you think that the weight issue played any part in it at all? If you just have a look at Haney and then look at him in how he was against Prograis, not the performance but just his body, what do you think? Was there a difference? Let me know. Do you think if Garcia, knowing how big he is and how difficult it is for him to make 140, do you think he would have had the same power on his shots if he had to make that weight and have come from that deficit? I don't know. To be honest, I'm not so sure. I think something would have been missing from Garcia had he had to go through the same deficit that Haney had to go through. But, he didn't have to go through it, so he was at his best. Congratulations to Garcia. I'm on to the next one.
I said, guess who's back? Man, guess who's back? I said, guess who's back?